Episode 1. It starts at a slightly worn-out mansion, where a young elf girl named Lily has just woken up. Cheerfully, she walks over to wake up the main character Xenos afterward. Lily gently prepares tea so the two of them can enjoy it together in a peaceful setting. Here, the story explains that a healing mage becomes stronger based on their rank at rank 3. They can only heal wounds. At rank 2, they can heal the whole body, and at rank 1, they have the power to make the entire world a better place. The history of this kingdom is closely tied to healers. Their significant contributions helped expand the territory and solidify the kingdom's position. At the Royal Hospital, many people study advanced healing magic and obtain a license before beginning their challenging journeys. However, in a remote, hidden corner of the kingdom, there's someone who never formally trained and doesn't even have a license. That person is none other than Xenos. At this moment, he just finished treating a patient and received his payment. After the patient left, Lily approached and told him he had a house call today. Xenos agreed and said he'd be back before sunset. Hearing that, Lily happily said she'd wait for him with dinner already prepared, right after she started cooking. Just then, the third resident of the house, a ghost named Carmilla, appeared. Watching Lily cook always made her want to try the food. She especially admired the delicious-looking stew. Lily proudly said her cooking was good because she wanted to become Xenos' wife someday. Carmilla smiled at that sweet enthusiasm and said she'd return to her room to rest. Just a few seconds later, someone knocked on the door. Lily opened it and found Zofia, a member of the lizard folk, looking for Xenos. Lily explained that he was out on a house call, but Zofia decided to wait. She had barely sat down when another guest arrived, Linga, a member of the Wolfkin. Once again, Lily had to explain that Xenos wasn't home. Linga looked disappointed because she was planning to lick him all over. Zofia insisted she was here first and told Linga to go home, which only started a full-blown argument. Lily got annoyed and declared that Xenos belonged to her. Surprisingly, that calmed both of them down. Suddenly, a loud noise came from the door and the girls immediately guessed who it was. Lily stepped outside and saw Lou, a girl from the Hawk tribe, had kicked the door down and barged in. Calmly, Lily repeated that Xenos wasn't home. Then she added that the others were already inside, but Loie needed to help fix the door before coming in. Once all three were gathered, Linga accused the others of being copycats. Loie asked if they came just for Lily's food. Meanwhile, Lily was putting finishing touches on her fragrant stew. She invited everyone to have dinner together while waiting for Xenos to return. A little later, Lily said she was going to hang up the laundry and asked them to watch the stew. The irresistible smell overwhelmed Linga and Loue. They sneaked a taste and soon couldn't stop eating. Zofia hesitated at first, afraid Lily would scold her, but eventually gave in to temptation and joined the secret feast. Within minutes, the stew was completely gone. The girls tried to come up with a reasonable excuse, but none of them could think of anything. When Lily returned and saw the chaotic scene, she smiled and asked for an explanation, but no one gave a good answer. She kept smiling, this time, with a much scarier smile, and asked them to confess again. The three girls started bickering, but the moment someone mentioned Xenos, they instantly changed the subject. They began comparing who was more attractive. Lily told them to stop, saying that if Xenos saw this, he'd be upset. She also shared that she was really looking forward to having dinner with everyone. Hearing that, the girls felt guilty and offered to help remake the food, but Lily was out of ingredients. Right then, Carmilla suddenly phased through the wall. She looked furious about what had happened. The three girls instantly knelt down and apologized with terrified expressions. While everyone was still panicking, Lily gently suggested that they all go outside together to gather ingredients and cook again from scratch. With just the two of them left, Carmilla scolded Lily for being too soft, but she also admitted that Lily had a very warm heart. As for Carmilla, if anyone dared eat her food, she'd curse the whole lot of them. But that was just her usual way of doing things. Lily softly replied that she was more mature and genuinely hoped everyone could get along. Even so, she wasn't sure if she'd finish cooking in time before Xenos came home. The scene shifts to our main character Xenos, who's now wandering through the town. During his walk, he notices a noblewoman who seems frail and exhausted. Just a few seconds later, a man showed up, furious that the girl had left without telling him. Turns out he was her master. She explained that she had a stomachache, went to the hospital, but couldn't get treated because she had no money. The man didn't care. He grabbed her hand and dragged her away, saying that wasn't an excuse to skip work. He dragged her to a cemetery and threw her hard onto a grave. This violent act unintentionally awakened an evil spirit, which began to possess the girl's frail body. While this was happening, the master kept cursing and insulting her, even stomping on her stomach without mercy. After that, he turned to leave, not wanting to waste time on what he saw as nonsense. But after just a few steps, he stopped and turned around, sensing something strange. By now, the evil spirit had fully taken over the girl. She lunged at him with claws and slashed a deep wound into his belly. Now completely possessed, she went berserk and lost all control. Terrified, the man ran for his life. While fleeing, he ran into Xenos. He immediately begged for help, saying his slave had gone crazy and was attacking him. Acting all innocent, he asked Xenos to defeat the girl for him. He promised a generous reward. Xenos began asking questions, wanting to investigate more. He asked why they were at the cemetery. The man vaguely replied that he was harvesting something, then tried to push Xenos to eliminate the girl, claiming he was seriously injured and needed a hospital. Just then, the girl attacked. Xenos quickly shoved the man out of the way to avoid the strike. The girl then picked up rocks and threw them repeatedly, but Xenos dodged with graceful, practiced movements. Impressed, the noble admired Xenos' skill and begged harder for him to kill her, but Xenos flat out refused. Because he doesn't kill people. The noble got angry and shouted that if nothing was done, he'd be killed. Besides, as a noble, he could always replace the slave girl. Still, Xenos firmly declined. He's a healer, someone who always tries to save lives. Seeing that the small rocks weren't working, the girl picked up a massive boulder and hurled it with incredible strength. Xenos reacted instantly, wrapping his arm in magical energy and smashing the rock to pieces with a single punch. The noble stood frozen, unable to believe a healer had such terrifying power. The battle continued. Xenos noticed that the girl was far quicker than an average demi-human. But as she closed in to strike, a magical barrier suddenly appeared, launching her into an old building. It collapsed and ended up trapping the noble underneath. Xenos then walked closer. He calmed the girl and used healing magic to drive the evil spirit out of her body. Once she returned to normal, he perfectly healed all her injuries. A little later, the noble crawled out from the rubble and witnessed everything Xenos had just done. Realizing Xenos was truly a healer, he begged for help. But Xenos coldly refused. He was off duty. If the noble wanted immediate treatment, he'd have to pay a huge fee. The noble quickly tossed a pouch full of sparkling gold coins. But Xenos still thought that wasn't enough. Offended, the noble argued that the money exceeded market rates and accused Xenos of extortion. In response, Xenos gave a slight smile and casually revealed that he was just an unlicensed back alley healer. He had no official license. He even joked that his work was basically grave digging with extra steps. Hearing that, the noble immediately denied everything and acted like he didn't understand what Xenos meant. That's when Xenos remembered the man had mentioned harvesting earlier. But he didn't care enough to press further. Instead, he made another offer. The noble could hand over the girl in exchange for treatment. The noble agreed without hesitation. After getting healed, he handed Xenos the gold and the ownership papers for the girl. Xenos sat down beside the unconscious girl. He waited until she woke up. When she opened her eyes, he politely introduced himself and told her that he had purchased her. He also asked how to properly pronounce her name. The girl replied that her name was Tur. Right after, Xenos suddenly asked her to undress. He explained that since she was quite expensive, he needed to check if her body was in stable condition. Tur blushed but followed his request, only removing the top part of her clothes. Xenos stepped closer and gently placed his hand on her to examine her condition. Instantly, he discovered she had gallstones. The condition had caused inflammation of the bile ducts. Her poor posture had led to frequent abdominal pain, and the jaundice he had noticed earlier confirmed it. Without saying much, he used healing magic to completely remove the gallstones in just a moment. Once everything was done, Tur nervously asked what he had just done. Xenos casually replied that he operated, removed the stones and stitched her back up. No magical circles, no incantations, and not a single trace left behind. She was stunned, while Xenos said any healer could do it. For him, it was just routine work. Tur bowed her head in gratitude for his help, but she also felt unsure about how to repay him. Xenos told her she'd need to work to pay back the life debt. Without hesitation, Tur expressed her resolve. She said she'd do anything he asked, since she now belonged to him. Xenos asked if she knew where to find a certain herb he needed, and she quickly led him to the place. After they collected the herbs, Xenos declared her debt fully repaid. Tur still didn't feel satisfied, but Xenos insisted that he valued fairness in giving and receiving. From now on, he said he was returning her freedom, and emphasized that her life now belonged solely to herself, no longer owned by anyone. Hearing those words, Tur became emotional and confessed that she still didn't know what she wanted to do with her life. But once she figured it out, she promised she'd come back and tell him. Xenos gladly agreed. Before leaving, he added that if she ever got hurt again, she could still come to him, of course not for free. Xenos returned home and was welcomed by Lily, who happily announced that dinner was ready. The other girls had just finished gathering the ingredients. He didn't say anything, just quietly walked to his seat. From the corner, Carmilla peeked out and teased that he looked happy after meeting a special girl. But Xenos simply told her not to bother him. Just then, Lily came over and said she'd prepare a big feast. But first, she would make tea for the two of them to enjoy. That simple offer made Xenos smile and he accepted. Episode 2 transitions to Xenos' past, back when he was still part of an adventurer group. One late night, the group's leader, a guy named Aston, handed him a shiny gold coin. Seeing Xenos completely stunned, Aston sneered and said, "It's not surprising at all that you don't recognize it. A precious reward like this is something a piece of trash, like you would never get the chance to even lay eyes on in your miserable, pathetic life." Because lately he hadn't been able to do anything useful. They didn't need him anymore. Xenos tried to protest, reminding them that they once said they were close friends. But his words only made Aston and the others burst into mocking laughter. Aston sneered that Xenos was still as stupid as he had been as a little kid. To Aston, Xenos was nothing more than a lowly beast, a foolish animal that thought being fed made him part of the group. But now things were different. They had become one of the most famous adventurer groups in the region, so they no longer needed him. Xenos tried to argue that it was thanks to him they became strong, but Aston cut him off coldly, refusing to let him take any credit, claiming he had learned healing magic by himself. Aston said they needed to attract the attention of wealthy nobles, and they couldn't keep traveling with a stinking, filthy guy from the slums like Xenos anymore. Finally, Aston said the gold coin was a farewell gift, since with it, Xenos could go wherever he wanted. However, he also warned him never to tell anyone he had once been a member of the Golden Phoenix, making Xenos bitterly realize that the gold coin was nothing more than a dirty bribe to shut him up. With no more words to fight back, Xenos bitterly accepted and turned to leave. Meanwhile, Aston and the others kept laughing at him in utter humiliation. Elsewhere, at the same time, a pair of smugglers were holding a tiny elf girl with the cruel intent to sell her on the black market. That girl was none other than Lily. The little girl struggled fiercely to avoid being captured. Eventually, she broke free from the smuggler holding her and began a desperate escape. But in her panicked flight, she was shot in the leg with an arrow, making it impossible to run any farther. When the smuggler grabbed her again, Lily bit his hand hard, but that only made him angrier, and he pulled out a knife, ready to stab. Right at that moment, Xenos happened to pass by and witnessed the horrific scene. Seeing Lily bleeding heavily, he couldn't help but feel deeply worried. The two smugglers bluntly declared that the girl was their valuable merchandise. Faced with the situation, Xenos immediately decided to hand over the gold coin to buy her. The leader accepted it without hesitation, since the amount was much more than they could earn by selling her. They left right away without a single complaint. As they were leaving, Xenos overheard the woman among them whispering to her companion about making the most out of the dying elf girl's value. At that moment, Lily weakly murmured that she was dying, but Xenos stayed calm, gently reassuring her that he could easily heal her wound. After casting the healing spell, Lily whispered that it was too late because she couldn't even feel any pain anymore, but Xenos calmly explained that it was because she had already been completely healed. Hearing that, Lily immediately stopped pretending to be in pain. Seeing her wound had vanished, she couldn't help but be amazed, having been completely convinced she was going to die. Witnessing such a miracle made Lily even more curious about how Xenos had saved her. Xenos simply answered that he was a healer. He just needed to pull out the arrow, heal the damage, and close the wound. Hearing this, Lily burst into tears, crying and thanking him. And it was at that very moment that the two of them learned each other's names for the first time. After that, Lily mentioned the gold coin, but Xenos just chuckled and told her not to worry about it, silently thinking that the coin was the last memento from Aston, something he no longer wanted to keep. Lily innocently asked if he was a famous healer, but Xenos shook his head and honestly said he didn't even have an official license. Everything he knew was self-taught. When asked where he lived, Lily sadly replied that she had no home. At that moment, her stomach growled from hunger. Seeing this, Xenos gently said the first priority was to find her some proper clothes and something to eat. After getting her cleaned up, he took Lily to a small inn where they could have a peaceful meal. This made Lily extremely happy. However, she hesitated and asked if Xenos would eat too. He replied that he was already full, but the truth was he had no money left, so he could only smile awkwardly. Deep down, Xenos pondered what he should do next with the girl. He had thought about taking her to an orphanage, but abandoned the idea, fearing she would be mistreated there. When Lily asked what his job was, Xenos honestly said he had just kicked out of the adventurer group he once belonged to, making Lily think that both of them were in the same precarious situation. Unexpectedly, a lizardman walked into the inn with a large wound on his arm. Just one glance and Xenos quickly guessed it was a gunshot wound and a burn caused by a magical weapon. The lizardman confirmed it, saying it was punishment for his carelessness, although he wished it hadn't hurt so much. Xenos told him not to exaggerate, because even though the wound wasn't minor, it would heal soon enough. Those words of comfort made the lizardman uneasy, realizing his wound was worse than he had thought. Xenos immediately used healing magic and completely healed the wound in just a few seconds. The lizardman instantly asked who he was, and Lily quickly chimed in, introducing Xenos as an incredibly skilled healer. The guy believed it right away, impressed by his outstanding ability. He stepped forward, handed over a few coins as payment, and left with sincere gratitude. Xenos smiled and said that, just like you pay for food at a restaurant, healers should also charge for their healing services. Lily found this completely reasonable, then suddenly remembered that she had thanked him when he saved her. To her, it was only natural to be grateful when someone helped you. Right at that moment, Xenos made an important decision. He would open a small healing clinic. Hearing words of thanks had made him truly happy, because no one had ever thanked him before. However, living in the poor slums, he couldn't get a proper license, and he felt that going through the official procedures would be extremely difficult. So in the end, he had no choice but to work underground as an illegal healer. Lily immediately got excited about the idea and eagerly offered to help at the clinic. But Xenos worried because what he was about to do was against the law, and he didn't want to drag an innocent child like her into something illegal. However, Lily slyly reminded him that since he bought her, he was now her master. Seeing Xenos still hesitating, she teased that maybe he bought her just to throw her away. Xenos hurriedly told her not to say things like that, as it could cause unnecessary misunderstandings. In the end, he agreed to let her stay by his side, but only until he could find her a truly safe place. Lily felt greatly relieved and said she would serve all her master's needs. Xenos reminded her to be more careful with her choice of words. Afterward, the two of them headed to a deserted, rundown area because if they were going to open an underground clinic, it needed to be somewhere discreet. Xenos knew there were still a few houses around here that were intact. After a careful search, they arrived in front of an abandoned mansion that still looked pretty solid. Lily instinctively clung to his shirt and nervously said that monsters often lurked in creepy places like this, and if they ran into a ghost, they'd be doomed. Xenos calmly asked what a ghost was. Lily explained that it was a powerful monster that couldn't die, could kill or enslave people with just a touch. Before stepping inside, Lily asked him to wait and began chanting, creating a small glowing orb of light. Seeing his surprise, she confirmed that she could use magic, though only simple spells. Thanks to the light from the orb, they could see much more clearly inside the mansion. Xenos felt the place wasn't bad at all, because back when he was adventuring, he usually had to sleep outdoors, so a place like this already felt luxurious. He then inspected the pillars and found they were still sturdy, meaning the repairs wouldn't be too difficult. Lily commented that Xenos was a very optimistic person, and he didn't deny it, because after losing everything, even the smallest blessings now felt precious to him. Suddenly, the thing Lily feared most appeared. A ghost materialized out of the gloom. Just as it was about to attack, Xenos instantly cast a healing spell to create a shield, all while maintaining an impressive calmness. He told Lily that if it was really a ghost, he had already defeated hundreds of them before, because every time Aston got mad and needed to vent, he would cruelly throw him into a dungeon full of undead monsters. That's how Xenos discovered that healing magic was surprisingly effective against them. Lily was amazed that he had survived such horrors. Xenos then turned to the ghost and said this was the only place he could stay. So if it didn't mind, could they stay here? The ghost looked absolutely furious, as if deeply insulted. It lunged to kill him, but as soon as it touched him, it instantly recoiled, sensing the terrifying threat from his healing magic. Furious, it shrieked that no mortal had ever dared to enrage it like this before. It declared its name was Carmilla, Queen of the Ghosts. Then she immediately summoned her minions to attack. Xenos just sighed heavily, because he had really wanted to settle things peacefully at first. But with no choice, he unleashed a grand heal spell, a powerful magic that wiped out all the minions in a flash. Carmilla was utterly stunned and asked who he was. But Xenos simply replied that he was just an illegal healer. Then he apologized and asked if they could just use one room for treating patients and another small room for sleeping. Carmilla agreed, allowing them to use the first floor, while she would keep the second floor as her domain. Xenos sincerely thanked her for her generosity. As the ghost withdrew, Lily watched her go and hesitantly said she didn't know whether to feel happy or sad. After that, they got to work fixing up the place, trying to make the clinic look a bit more welcoming and tidy. Lily even suggested going out to promote it, since she wanted to show off the nurse uniform they had prepared. However, Xenos looked worried, because if they weren't careful, the official hospitals might find out about them. Even so, he told her not to worry too much, because he believed customers would come to them naturally. And sure enough, just a few seconds later, the lizard men they had treated earlier showed up again. Xenos smiled and said he had already predicted this, because with the kind of burns caused by magical weapons, it definitely wasn't something a normal person would have, and people like that had good reasons to avoid official hospitals. The lizardman introduced himself as Zond and asked if Xenos could heal his older sister. And that's how they met Zofia. The girl showed her badly damaged arm, injured by a magical bullet. Xenos quickly assessed that the bullet was still inside and the toxins were slowly rotting the flesh. Zofia was amazed that he could figure out so much with just a glance. Xenos mentioned that he had almost become a test subject for cruel experiments once. Thinking about it now, he felt determined to get his revenge someday. Pushing aside those grim memories, Zofia asked if he could heal her. Xenos calmly explained that most of the arm had already necrotized, so the best option was to amputate it before the toxins spread further. Zofia sighed but accepted. She then asked how much the surgery would cost. Xenos replied that it would be 1 million yen. The first to react angrily was Zond, furious because he thought the price was outrageous just to cut off an arm. Zofia told her brother to calm down and sarcastically joked that this doctor clearly had no heart. She asked if he charged such a high price because he didn't know she was Zofia the Tempest. Xenos remained calm, showing no surprise, but deep inside, he realized his very first customer was a big fish. He knew very well that Zofia was one of the most famous leaders in the slums, head of the lizardman gang and a heroine to the poor. Someone who robbed greedy merchants to help those in need. Zofia demanded an explanation for why he dared to charge 1 million yen just to cut her arm. Before she could start threatening him, Xenos quickly interrupted, explaining that he wasn't just going to amputate but would actually regenerate an entirely new arm, and that the process was extremely exhausting and energy-consuming. He also emphasized that he didn't work for free. No matter how important the client was, he expected fair payment. Zofia asked again, thinking he was joking, because no healer she knew had ever been able to regenerate a limb. This surprised Xenos a little, and he realized she truly didn't know about high-level healing magic. In the end, Zofia agreed to let him perform the surgery. Xenos took out a special tool, saying it was a magically enhanced scalpel, extremely sharp, sterilized, and could be summoned or dismissed through magic. Zofia was amazed because she had never seen a doctor use such a strange knife before, and curiously asked how he usually operated. Without answering, Xenos immediately used magic to numb the pain and sterilize the area, then swiftly amputated the damaged arm. Afterward, he used defensive magic to stop the bleeding, combined it with advanced healing magic to accelerate tissue regeneration. The process started with rebuilding the bone, then the nerves, blood vessels, muscles, and finally, restoring the skin. Within just a few short seconds, the surgery was complete. Zofia looked at her brand new arm with eyes full of amazement and awe, because she had never seen anything so miraculous. Suddenly, Zahn stupidly asked what was up on the ceiling. Xenos calmly answered that it was a ghost living with them. While both of them were still stunned, Carmilla suddenly showed up, grumbling that yet another patient hadn't died, then stomped away angrily. Zahn mumbled that she truly had no heart. But Xenos just chuckled and said that, actually, Carmilla was quite adorable, she just didn't show it. At that moment, Zofia commented that not only was Xenos incredibly talented, but he was also very funny. She asked if he would mind if she brought more acquaintances over for treatment, and of course, they would pay properly. On another morning, Lily brought out 3 fragrant cups of tea, telling Xenos she had made an extra cup for Carmilla. When Carmilla came downstairs, Lily quickly warned her that the tea was still hot. But being distracted, Carmilla accidentally burned herself and screamed in anger, then rushed back upstairs. Brushing off the incident, Lily turned to Xenos and asked why members of the Lizardman gang seemed to get injured so often, since she had helped quite a few of them lately. Xenos guessed it was because of the constant conflicts between gangs, as there were 3 major factions in the slums that were always in a state of cold war. Just then, Linga appeared with her loyal wolf pack. She was the leader of the werewolves and, as usual, introduced herself with pride. Xenos knew very well that Linga ran the illegal games in the slums and always managed to attract the big fish. Linga explained that she had come looking for him because even after beating the Lizardman gang to a pulp, thanks to his healing, they always came back as if nothing had happened. Therefore, according to her, the best way to eliminate the threat was to get rid of Xenos. Without giving him a chance to react, she lunged straight at him, aiming for his throat. However, Xenos managed to instantly deploy a defensive magic shield, a skill he had taught himself, making even her entire wolf pack powerless. Furious, Linga ordered her subordinates to destroy the clinic. But just as they began, Carmilla appeared, ready to slaughter them all. Xenos hurriedly stopped her and gently thanked her for listening to him. Although Carmilla looked annoyed, she quietly admitted that lately she had been feeling quite comfortable living there. Faced with the situation, Linga had no choice but to change her attitude, bowing her head to apologize. Because among werewolves, beings like ghosts and vampires were considered noble, and they didn't want to offend someone who could command a royal ghost. Shortly after, the orc chief named Lowu also sent someone to summon him, showing how Xenos was gradually making contact with the major forces in the slums.